Hi, I'm Dustin Fawcett. My company is LabTechify, and this is my growth experiment loop map that we'll be going over today. Over here, my two first risky assumptions that I wanted to address are dealing with traction. And the first one, the traction that I wanted to go with is reaching out to school counselors, whether that's college or high school, to find out if they'd be willing to share LabTechify with their students. So my first hypothesis was that if I send out 10 emails to counselors at different schools, then 50% of counselors will respond and 30% will forward the information. So I was hoping for a 30% forward rate, which kind of show down here as my metric. Um, I guess that's my experiment, but my metric is different. So the experiment, I prepared two differently worded emails. One um, talking about how an MBA student looking to expand uh, the medical laboratory and to try to reach out to other students who are interested in potentially being a part of the medical lab. The second one was that I am a supervisor of a medical lab and wanted to share my expertise in that sort of way. So I created two different emails that I then sent out to 10 different school counselors. Um, the metrics, I wanted to go off of response rate. So 25%, I felt like if one out of every four counselor would respond, then I had a pretty good chance of getting some traction that way. The confirmation rate of those 25%, I was hoping for 75% in the affirmative. So what one out of every four would reject the notion that they would pass it on to their students. So I sent out those emails and 17 emails were sent. One of them did bounce back with a no longer working there. So out of the 16, I got six who responded and all of them were positive. So my response rate of 37.5% was above my metric to keep going, which got me excited. And the fact that every one of them was willing to do so, it made me even more motivated. Um, as far as the insight goes, I noticed that school counselors are very responsive to their emails. I think that that's how they communicate with their students in in most of their communications. And so getting emails from other people, they're constantly checking them and seeing an opportunity for me to go out to their students. Um, six of them responded in the positive. Um, so if they see value in it, they'll send it out to their students. And one counselor actually sent it out to 680 students, which was exciting for me. One counselor decided to keep it to share with students as they came in one by one. I kind of think that that's more valuable. I'm going to get hotter leads that way. And then the decision on this one was that the fact that it didn't cost me anything and that I'm getting responses and people are checking out my website because of it, it made me very motivated to keep going. So I wanted to find out if I could reach out again to those who didn't um, respond the first time. So school counselors are busy. I only got 6 out of 16 responses. That means 10 didn't ever respond. So, and there were two others, and that's why it says follow up with 12 non-respondents. Um, because I did end up sending a couple more emails out because I was starting to see success, so I got excited about that. Anyway, I wanted to follow up with those who didn't respond, and I assume that some of them who didn't respond because they were not interested in passing it on to their students. So if that's the case, then I was expecting a lower response rate from these ones. So I sent out the emails and um, yeah, kind of hoping for the same metrics as before, but I didn't get any responses from, well, there were three sent initially, but I did send a few more after that. And the follow through on this particular channel was lacking, and that's on me. That's my fault. Just because I was seeing success with that, I felt confident that I could move forward. And I wanted to pay attention to my second traction channel, which was paid ads. Just because I'm spending money on it, I wanted to baby it and make sure that it was working the right way. So these I kind of did in tandem. Anyway, so the thing that I learned from it was that I'll continue to do that. Um, it's definitely a better solution long term because if I can get schools on board with it, then every year that new class students come in, I have a new set of potential customers. So I like this one and I'll continue to use it for the long term. Um, and this shows that I was prepping to do a bigger send out. Anyway, moving on to the second traction channel, paid ads. Now, there's three different experiments here. but there were a couple beforehand. And so I'll give a little bit of background before we jump into this first experiment. I had heard that with Google Ads, you could target a specific area, geographic region. And so I picked the university that I went to, Brigham Young University, BYU, and set the boundaries 3 miles, 3 mile radius around the school. My hope was that I would capture pretty much all of the students that went to that school, and the students who were most interested would see it and would do something about it. So I launched it and got zero clicks, zero responses. It just wasn't working. And so I thought, okay, trying to cast a wide net over all students. Obviously, there's a lot of students who are not interested in the lab. So I decided to change my tactic. And so I, this is where this one comes in. So I chose better keywords and widened my net to allow a much bigger geographic area, um, while targeting in on my actual customer, those who are interested in the medical field as well as the lab. So I modified the existing ad that I had, removed the 3 mile limit, changed the generic salary keywords to something specific to the medical laboratory, and my belief was that by narrowing this down, I would get some clicks, right? So if 75% or 75 cents per click times 500 clicks, 375, and if 2% of those clicks completed surveys, then I'd get 10 survey completions. And of those completions, if I got one sign up, then I'm talking a $2,000 um, payment, I guess, because the program costs $2,000 versus the cost per acquisition, customer acquisition cost would be a lot lower. And so this was getting me excited that I'd be able to reach a broad range of individuals all across the United States, um, and really target them and benefit. So this is why I was focusing on this more than the emails to the school counselors. So the results from my initial campaign was 23 clicks for $20. So it ended up costing just a little bit more. And later on, you find out that I do end up paying a little bit more, but it's worth it because the quality of my clicks has gone up quite a bit. So there were zero form submissions out of those 23 clicks. I was hoping to get a little bit more. Um, but even like based on my predictions, I was only supposed to get half a form submission on that anyway. Um, this particular ad, I saw most of the clicks were coming from individuals age 55 and older. That's not my target demographic, so it was time for me to change something. If I can narrow down my audience drastically, then I can target my best chance customers, run the same ad with a more narrow demographic. So that's where I headed. I was like, okay, if I'm getting the wrong people, then it doesn't matter how cheap the clicks are, I'm just never going to get a sale. So I need to really focus my ads on the right people so that I can get some customers. Okay. And that's kind of what I mentioned here. So I changed the demographics to include 18 to 34-year-olds. Um, and I added some negative keywords because I was noticing that a lot of the keyword terms that people were searching for included pharmacy, jobs, ultrasound. So, I mean, I'm not offering a job, I'm offering education. And so jobs eliminated a lot of keywords that were being searched for, and this actually really helped a lot. So I tightened my demographics around the age of recent graduates. I removed keywords that weren't relevant anymore. And I kind of piggybacked off of this initial one because I really believe that if I get the right target, then we'll start getting some clicks. So notice here that we ran the same ad, but got 84 clicks with 12 form submissions and 2 applications. So by far and away, it shot way up. Um, I mean, we're looking at a little over 3 times the number of clicks, but from zero form submissions to 12 and 2 applications, it was definitely worth paying a little bit more per click. So narrowing the target demographic raised the price per click, but found customers who are interested enough to engage with the product. Um, at the time that I was doing this, my website also wasn't super optimized for it. Um, but to see engagement on it made me excited that okay, and this is based on very small budget. So once I open it up and increase the budget, I should be able to expect a very similar percentage of survey completions. Anyway, so I lowered the ad spend after this because I validated the point that, okay, I can find the right customers through paid ads. and I needed to focus on getting the website built. So I lowered the ad spend because I wasn't ready to push customers through to purchase. However, it appears that if I increase my ad spend, the clicks will increase at a similar rate. I don't know if it's linear, but it should be pretty close to that. So in other words, I believe that this is a scalable opportunity here. Okay. So if I advertise the same demographic but push customers to my free course, now this is something that I set up as a second um, risk, I guess, was that customers aren't signing up for my program because of the uncertainty of the course. So I needed to provide credibility. And one of the ways to do that is by actually giving them a piece of my true program that they can see, okay, we're actually building a program. We know what we're talking about. Come be a part of it. So I created a free section. Yeah, I created a free course that if they register, they can do the free lesson. So if I advertise the same demographic but push customers to my free course, I will receive much more engagement, increasing conversions. So I like that this percentage of 16.7% survey completion was based on a website that wasn't optimized. Now, pushing this free course was hopefully going to create more engagement and greater amount of trust. So I duplicated the previously used Google ad, but changed the destination so that it would land on the registration page for this free course. So two ads, I was going to compare them, and both require an email, so I was going to compare engagement. So which ad was producing the most emails on my email list? Um, Google Ads was having some difficulty pushing that ad through because of the link that I used, because it leads to a paywall page. So I have to figure out how to modify that. I only launched this one recently, um, but we'll get into the actual free program here. So I mentioned before, providing value for free will increase engagement, and that's my risky assumption here. So if we create and make available a free course with one or two lessons for anyone to have access to, then our application submissions will increase by 50%. And that's our goal here. So using my website builder, I built a members area that was free and paywalled it so that they had to register, but they didn't have to pay anything for it. So my hope was to have three additional applications, with two of them having registered for the free lesson. Um, if you remember back here, we've only had two application submissions at this point. So my hope is that by continuing to run these ads, but by modifying the website, that we'll have three applications with two of them having registered. So I launched it, watched for a little while, and these are the results. 5 applications were submitted, which was a huge increase, got me really excited. Of those 5, 2 registered for the free lesson. So the percentage didn't quite match up with it being hopefully 67%, but I mean, 40% is still really good. There were a total of 6 registrations for the free lesson. So 6 free lessons, and 2 of those filled out the application. So I got a lot more registrations than applications. So I'm loving that. There were 4 previous application submissions. We more than doubled our applications. So I'm feeling good that this one item is adding on to this item and we're building something here. So this is proving to be promising to have 6 registrations for a free lesson with no like actual meat. The free lesson I gave was just an introduction to myself and gave me a chance to experiment with the program and learn about it. So it's not a really great free program, but people are getting interested. And I've also learned that phone calls are king at this point. Um, that filling out the application doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but if I can get on the phone with them, then that usually leads to a little bit more success. So I'm going to give the free course some meat. In other words, I'll create a free lesson or a pre-lesson that shows you how to use the platform. And then the lesson I want to provide is Introduction to Urine Micros. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of engagement, a lot of instruction that will lend a lot of credibility, showing that I actually know what I'm talking about here. So um, this was a separate one. If we increase the value of our free course, customers will feel greater trust in the product and will schedule more calls. So I wanted to focus on how are we going to get more calls. So I created two I'm gonna create the two lessons, including um, the pre-lesson as well as the introduction to urine micros. And I know that it's lesson 32 because I built the layout of it. We've got over 100 lessons. Whew, it's gonna be a big one. Anyway, I've had two uh, calls previously over the last 2 months, and so I'm hoping to double that with two calls in 1 month instead. So launch the experiment. After less than a month, we've had three scheduled calls. One turned into a paying customer. So we're now revenue generating. Very pleased about that. And I think a big role in that is the paid ads as well as um, the modified page to show that the course is accessible and running, right? So while I can't directly attribute the calls to the additional material, the free lessons, uh, but it's the only thing that I've really changed since starting. I feel that that's heading in the right direction. We're seeing more success off of that one change. So it's time to push the free course more to more people through ads. And while the free course button is fairly prominent on the main page, it's only found in one spot. So that's something I think I need to do is make it more accessible because if that was the change that increased calls, then I need to make it more available so that hopefully we'll get even more calls. And that led to my next experiment. If we can add a free course button to multiple sites throughout the site, multiple spots throughout the site, rather than just the home screen, then we should see an increase in registrations. So I added it to the assessment page, pricing page, and the apply now page. 10 new account registrations within month would prove an increase. So we're in the middle of running that experiment, and currently we have 6 new registrations, and it's only been about 2 weeks. So we're on course for those 10. Very excited about that. Um, and now nurturing those leads is what I need to do next. So I've got only a minute left, so we'll go through this. Customers will pay for my training, knowing the course is not accredited, and will find value in what I can offer. So this is a big one. Working in a medical lab, there are 10 states that require specific certification, and I can't provide that yet. And so the long-term goal is to be able to provide that. But anyway, after requiring feedback after each completed lesson, I'll be able to understand how they feel about it. I'll include a feedback survey at the end of each lesson, and my hope is to receive one response to the feedback survey for every 2 free course registrations. So we're still collecting the feedback. I have received some data. The ratio is very low, only 1 out of every 5 responses. But this is the free course, so there's nothing really writing on the line yet. So what I've learned is that with it being a free course, um, participation is spotty at best. In other words, they watch the lesson, they kind of see what it's like, and they don't want to spend their time filling out a survey. So with it being a paid course and me requiring it from them, we're going to get much more participation on that. So I'm not too worried about that. And then by being upfront on phone interviews about a program, we'll probably lose about half of our potential customers knowing that they're not going to get accredited. And my hope is to have a number lower than that. So at each onboarding call, we're going to talk about it. And we launched that one. And we had 3 application interview phone calls, and 2 of them paid the application fee and are paying for the program currently. So we're up to 2 paid customers. We're very excited about that. We've got a third one on the line. We're very close. Um, yeah, so 33% rejection rate, possibly. But I didn't get a specific reason as to why that last person didn't pay the application fee, just that they didn't do it. So I assume it has something to do with that, or maybe they're busy. But regardless, we beat the percentage that we were going for. So my main concern is the customers. Um, my main concern of my customers is their ability to get a job after the training. So the next exception, risky assumption deals with laboratories and are they willing to hire somebody who hasn't worked in the medical lab. So I'm going to submit applications with my name on it with a resume that looks very much like my customers. I've got a couple of customers now. I can ask them for their details and I can start applying for jobs. And I'll put LabTechify as my certificate and see what percentage of callbacks from these different job opportunities will come back. So even if I get phone calls, then that kind of proves that labs are willing to even consider it. So that is happening soon. I haven't launched that one yet, but that's that's in the works right now. So anyway, that is my board for LabTechify. Thank you.